Go, Al.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Virtual Vino, and thank you for joining us. Please do not hesitate to like and share today's Virtual Vino on your Facebook page. My name is Alan Emery, and I am the owner of DMV Distributing. Devin is taking a well-deserved night off, and as a result, I will be hosting today along with my coworker at DMV, Monica Connors. Our much-anticipated special guest this evening is Desiree Harrison Brown. Desiree is a former DMV wine specialist who has moved on to bigger and better things with Pernod Ricard winemakers in Los Angeles. Desiree is really well known for her blog, Wino Noir. She's the perfect guest for this period in our time, as she can not only discuss the effect of coronavirus on her in the wine business, but also Desiree can speak to being a minority in the industry. Before I introduce Monica and Desiree, I want to thank all of our participating stores who are offering the Virtual Vino 4-pack wine bag, along with, and hopefully everyone's getting these as well, the tasting sheets in the bag. This week, we have 4 delicious wines, and including a 91-point Rioja and a 90-point Malbec. We will also be giving away wonderful prizes throughout the night from Chouquette Chocolates and FireFly Farms. Winners of these great products will be selected randomly from comments we receive, so please do not hesitate to comment early and often. Also, do not hesitate to ask Desiree, Monica, or I questions, and we will do our best to respond. At the end of tonight's show, we will post a poll on our Facebook page to vote for your favorite wine, and one more prize winner will be randomly selected from the poll participants. Last week's winner was the Lab Rosé. The final thing I want to mention before bringing Monica and Desiree on is a thank you to the Washington Post and their wine reviewer, Dave McIntyre. For those of you who do not know, Dave McIntyre reviews 4 to 5 wines every Wednesday in the food section of the Washington Post. He also writes a wine article to accompany the reviews. His articles and reviews typically are posted on the Washington Post website the Friday afternoon prior. This past Wednesday, our Il Casado Pinot Grigio was at the top of the list of wines reviewed, and the previous week, our Herogram Zinfandel was also on the top of the list. The Herogram will be tasted on next week's Virtual Vino, so definitely check us out for that. Dave takes great care to find inexpensive wines that provide a great bang for your buck, and I highly recommend reading them. Our Pinot Grigio that appeared this past Wednesday is typically available for $12 or less at your local wine shop. Another great service Dave provides is that he always lists local stores that carries the wines he reviews. All right, let's move on to the fun part of our evening. If you have the Muscle Based Sauvignon Blanc and have not already done so, please pour yourself a taste. And if you do not have the Muscle Bay, pour yourself whatever beverage is handy. Monica Connors is our co-host this evening. I'm going to let her tell you a little bit about herself, and then we will introduce our special guest, Desiree Harrison Brown. Monica and Desiree will walk you through the 4 wines we are sampling, as well as discuss other topics that I'm looking forward to hearing about.
Thank you, Alan. I'm so glad you asked me to be a part of tonight's Virtual Vino. I'm glad to be back and reunite with some of my coworkers and friends. To all of my new friends watching, yes, that means you. Where are you joining us from tonight? Make sure you comment and let us know. Our special guest tonight is joining us from right here in Maryland as well. So please welcome my friend and respected colleague, Desiree Harrison Brown.
Hi, everyone.
Good evening, Desiree.
Thanks so much for.
Cheers, Desiree.
Cheers.
I'm really happy you could join us tonight.
I know, it's so good to be back in the presence of you all. I had such a great experience at DMV, and I'm sure we'll talk about it a little more as the night goes on, but we're going to have fun tonight.
Right. So, Desiree, tell us what you've been up to lately. I know, like Alan said, you were a representative, a wine specialist with us, and now you've been working at a winery or working with a winery. So what else have you been up to?
Yeah, so in March, I got a new job. So leaving DMV was bittersweet, but now I'm a wine ambassador for Pinot Ricard Winemakers, where I represent a host of brands. And funny story, I'm supposed to be living in LA, being a wine ambassador there, but COVID has unfortunately postponed my move. So I'm still here in Maryland, but the bright side is I get to be here with you all tonight because I'm still on the
So Desiree, you have to tell us what you think about the Mussel Bay.
Okay.
Right.
So I already put my glass, and right off the bat, it is so aromatic, like very, very fragrant. I get like pineapple, definitely gooseberry. So gooseberry is a really funny aroma because sometimes it's described as cat's pee, which is a little bit weird, but gooseberry is a fruit and you can find it at Whole Foods apparently. So I definitely, that aroma jumps out of the glass, and it's very common in New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. So I'm gonna go ahead and taste it. And it's so good. I fell in love with New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc early on in my wine journey. It was like one of the first wines that I drank, and I was like, wow, I can really smell things in the glass. Because it definitely takes a little bit of practice to start picking up on aromas, but you cannot miss the fruit flavor in the glass here. So this is a really good one.
All right.
Yeah, so that was, like she said, the New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc from Marlborough region. The Mussel Bay is a wine available throughout Maryland and DC, and you can find it in stores typically for $16.99 or less. It's got an alcohol by volume percentage of 12.5. And so I think this is an excellent white wine to go with many of our summer dishes. Definitely that nice acidity, and of course all that nice grapefruit and everything else that goes along with this wonderfully crisp Sauvignon Blanc certainly complement all that summer cuisine.
Definitely. I definitely want to have like oysters or like even a salad or something with this.
Yeah. You know, it's funny because the winery, they recommend pairing it with chicken or turkey, like smoked chicken, smoked turkey, which I thought was kind of interesting. And I thought, you know, that would probably be a really good pairing.
For sure. I didn't think about that, but I could definitely imagine it with like a smoked turkey, like a complimentary.
Yeah.
That would be good.
Yeah, wouldn't it? So, you know, I thought it was kind of interesting. You know, I like looking up the notes from the wineries as well because they know their wine better than anyone else.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got my wine glass in my way. Yeah, so it looks like we're coming up on prize time, and I hope everyone's commenting because you can only win all the wonderful prizes tonight because of the comments that we post. So I would like to remind everyone watching that winners of the Chouquette chocolates that we have, they're 5-piece chocolates, or the FireFly Farm Cheese gift card, will be selected randomly from the comments we receive. So please don't hesitate to comment often. And please feel free to ask Desiree, Alan, or myself any questions. You know, we've got some wonderful knowledge here in this call tonight. So I'd love to hear from everybody, hear your thoughts on the Sauvignon Blanc, and hear what you hear any questions you might have for Desiree. And we're gonna pick that prize from the comments. And Alan's got some questions for Desiree here.
So Desiree, the first question I wanted to ask you is, I feel the blog was ahead of the curve when it came to discussing diversity in the wine business, and I'm wondering what it was that got you out in front of everyone else.
You know, when I started my blog, I started it with the intent to showcase diversity in the wine, but more so just to document my journey in the wine industry. when I started working in wine, obviously I realized that there weren't a lot of Black women, there weren't a lot of minorities working in wine. So I just sought out to connect with a bunch of people, and that is what inspired the blog. I didn't realize that it was gonna blow up and be this big thing. I'm so excited for the movement that has been happening more recently, prompting more brands and wineries to be more inclusive and to really promote equity in wine. But when I first started, it was really just to share my passion for wine and show that, hey, there are other people besides white men that drink and love wine.
Right.
I see we have some questions. How did I get involved in the wine business? That's a good question, and that's a good place to kind of start. So I was working in corporate America and really just wasn't satisfied with my job. So I got a part-time job doing wine tastings at like local liquor stores and grocery stores. And I realized that I didn't know a lot about wine. People would come up to the table and like ask me questions, and I would have to either like Google it or read the back of the bottle, and just didn't know what I was talking about. So that encouraged me to get more wine education so I could know what I was talking about and sell more wine at the wine tastings. So after getting education, I kind of just fell in love with wine, and I took a huge risk. I started applying for some jobs, and I followed Alicia and Rebecca, who was a previous DMV employee, on social media. And I just told them, I said, hey, I saw this job posting. I know you work there. Tell me what you think about the company. And they were like, oh my goodness, I think you'll be great. I'm going to tell Alan you applied. Alan reached out to me the next day, and I think I had an interview within a week. And the rest was history. So that's how I transitioned from working in corporate to working in wine full time.
Awesome. All right. Wonderful.
I think we were really lucky to be there at the right place at the right time to be our first distributor.
Definitely just the right place at the right time.
Right.
Sometimes that's how it happens.
Right. Some of the best things are in life are unplanned like that, right?
Exactly.
Well, I don't see any other questions right now, so it looks like we can move on to our next wine. Are we ready for the confidential rosé?
Yeah, I was about to get a head start.
All right, so the confidential rosé is a blend of 10 confidential varieties, and it is from the Casa Santos Lima winery in Portugal. We've had a few of their other wines before, so I'll give everybody a chance to pour it, and then we'll have Desiree go through a little rundown, give us some tasting notes.
I love this wine. Alan was generous and brought me 2 bottles of this, and the other one finished yesterday. So that's how much I love the confidential rosé. It's fresh, has like strawberry and cherry flavors. This is another like perfect summer wine. You can have it as like what they call a porch pounder and just like drink it by itself, or you can pair chicken, grilled things. Super versatile because of the high acidity and high acidity in the fruit. So this one's good.
Very good. Yeah. So Confidential Rosé is from Casa Santos Lima. Like I said, they're a family-owned company. They're dedicated to the production, bottling, and selling of Portuguese wines. You can find this wine throughout Maryland and DC liquor stores, and it typically is you can find it for $12.99 or less. Typically, it is 12.5%, which for a rosé, I mean that's pretty good. You know, most of them, you know, some whites and rosés tend to be a little bit on the lighter side. So I think this is one of my favorite rosés. It went perfectly with the burger and pasta salad that I had for dinner. So
yeah, This one is such a good price point too. $12.99 as like the average price is super affordable. So
absolutely super affordable. You know, this you could have, this doesn't have to be the Friday night wine. This could be, you know, an everyday. This could be a Monday, a Tuesday, you know, any day of the week. And I think
Thursday,
that's something very, yeah, every day. And I think most of the wines actually tonight fall under that category. They're all under $20. And so I don't think you can go wrong with any of them. They're excellent wines and they have, you know, great prices and they're absolutely wonderful. And there's something for everybody's taste tonight. So
I've got a question for Desiree, if that's okay.
Of course, absolutely.
So I'm wondering, Desiree, in July, Fiona Beckett wrote in The Guardian about the plight of minorities in the wine business. And Dave McIntyre, who writes for Washington Post, also wrote about similar issues in sommelier programs. I'm curious to know if you've had any experiences in the wine business that have made you uncomfortable as a minority.
Yeah, so I would say that most of my experiences that have been negative have not been overtly racist. No one's called me racial slurs or things like that. But there have been plenty of instances where they were like, made me question, like, was that because of racism? There are plenty of times when I went into accounts and buyers, this is when I was working for DMV, and buyers would just ignore me, make excuses for why they couldn't meet with me. And I mean, once you work in the wine business, you know that buyers can be not nice sometimes. So
understatement.
Yes, exactly. But it did make me question, like, is it because I'm a woman? Is it because I'm Black? Because then some other person, maybe a younger white woman would come in and they would taste automatically with them. So it was just experiences like that that made me question. It just wasn't a welcoming environment all the time. So I am happy that there have been articles where people are speaking openly about their experiences so that people in the industry can be more aware of how their actions are perceived. Maybe they have bias or unconscious bias and maybe don't realize it. So I think it's just so important to just be aware. And yes, age is a big thing too, because I was so young. I felt a lot of people didn't take me seriously. So I felt the pressure to get those certifications so that, you know, I could say, well, look, I have the certification. How can you say I don't know what I'm talking about? So that was kind of to counteract me being so young. But there were just plenty of experiences that just weren't pleasant. And it just made me question, like, why is this my experience?
So I also have a question from Lucy McNutt here, and she has a question. How about any discrimination based on your age? You look very young.
Yeah, so I think, I mean, I'm younger than a lot of people that I work with. So it definitely did play a role. People just, you know, not thinking I know what I'm talking about because I am young. But, you know, I just try to prove them wrong, but you shouldn't have to, you know?
Right. Well, I think once people start talking to you, they realize how educated and how informed you are about the wine business and that you have so much to add. And I think we need to start looking at more than just what a person we think can offer and seeing what they actually can offer, because I do believe that even if they don't know, they want to know.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I think that it's important to keep those conversations going. And then we had another question. So I'm going to ask your expert opinion. So when serving rosé, at what temperature would you typically serve a rosé to bring out the best highlights and flavor?
Yeah, so you want your rosé to be pretty cold. Like, put it in the refrigerator, make sure it gets super cold, but you don't want it like ice cold, because when you don't serve your wine at the proper temperature, you aren't going to get the most of the flavor. So sometimes when your wines are like really, really cold, you can't taste anything. So this is one that you can put in the fridge till it's cold, and then I would just let it warm up for maybe 10 minutes after you pull it out the fridge. And that's like a good way to gauge, because a lot of times people will throw out the temperatures, but there's really no good way to measure the temperature of the bottle. So I like to do it in time. Put it in the fridge, make sure it's cold, maybe pop it in a few hours before, and then when you pull it out, leave it out for maybe 10 to 15 minutes, just to let it warm up just a bit, but not too much.
So I had another question from Lucy. She said, did you use business cards? Does it help to invest in those so you can put your credentials in writing?
Yeah, so I definitely have business cards, and I use them sometimes, but I don't walk around like, hey, I have these credentials, you know. So, but I mean, they are cards. It's in my email signature, so people know they have correspondence with me.
Desiree, you mentioned taking classes. What kind of programs did you take and where?
Yeah, so I am certified through the Wine and Spirit Education Trust, and I've taken 3 levels. So I'm level 3 certified, and I've taken them all at Capital Wine School in DC. So I know the wine pack was offered at Paul's in DC. Capital Wine School is right next to Paul's. So for anyone who maybe got their wine pack from there, that's where I went to wine school.
Okay.
It's a London-based program, but you can find schools around the country, really around the world, that will certify you in wine.
We have a really generous.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
We have a really generous boss who is helping us get through WSET 2. So I'm really fortunate to have that opportunity. They're offering it online, and so it's a wonderful opportunity to get to know a little more about wine. I mean, of course, when you're in the industry, you learn stuff just from being in the industry.
Sure.
But I also think it's important to learn the technicals as well. And so we had some other technical questions for you as well.
Sure.
You know, we might as well. I mean, you're gonna put that education to use tonight, right? So I had a question from one of our watchers who said, what kind of foods would you typically pair with a rosé? I know we said a couple, but you know, give us a list, a rundown of what you would normally pair with that.
So rosé can be pretty versatile. So you can get some rosés that are going to be really light and have like more like red fruit flavors, like strawberry and cherry. But then sometimes your rosés could get a little more weighty. They may have a little more skin contact, so they'll be a little bit darker in color. So for your lighter ones, you want to almost compare it to a white wine when you're drinking like a rosé like this one. You could have it with chicken, creamy pastas, grilled vegetables would be a good pairing for it. And then some more weighty rosés. So
absolutely, you
could pair it with burgers or what else? Yeah, just like other grilled chicken dishes. But the good thing about rosé is that it's versatile. So what you're looking for in a wine that makes it versatile is the acidity. So when you drink it, you get that mouth watering. It feels refreshing, like it's clearing your palate, getting you ready to take the next bite of your food. So with this one, with the high acid, it's perfect for a variety of different types of foods. This could also go with something a little more spicy. Like Thai takeout would be really good with it.
I agree. I think that's a wonderful pairing there. I love spicy food. Anything with a little bit of chili to it.
Yeah.
So that might be why I like the Rieslings too. So I had another question from one of our watchers here. I just have a lot of questions tonight, and I'm so glad to see so much interaction. So please keep them coming. I'll be looking through them. So if you see me looking down, I'm looking for your questions. So don't think I'm ignoring you. But yeah, so let's see. So I have a question. Do you think now that rosé has been around for and become more popular over the past few years because we hit this point where rosé was like the it thing. Is it still hip to drink rosé? Is one of the questions.
I don't think rosé is going anywhere. So I think it's going to be around for a while. People are going to be drinking it for a while. And when rosé first became popular, it was viewed as more like a summertime drink. People would only want to drink rosés when it was hot outside. But now as it's become more popular and people are noticing the versatility of it, you can drink rosé all year round. So
I do.
Yes. So I don't think it's going anywhere. There's way more options for you to choose from. So you'll have to kind of start to figure out which styles you like. Rosé can be made from any red grape. So if you like Pinot Noir, maybe look for rosés that are made from Pinot Noir. But you're going to have to start to figure out what you like so you can choose from the sea of pink wine.
Rosé is just like any other wine. You have to figure out what grapes you like. Do you like acidic wines? Do you like something that's a little bit more full-bodied, something that's very light and spritzy? So you have to figure out what you like.
For sure.
I totally agree.
So having been in the business for a very long time and being older than either of you, obviously, I can tell you that when I first started in the business, rosé, you could sell it for about 3 months. And they would bring in the rosé and they would pre-sell it. They were trying so hard to get it out as quickly as possible because at the end of August, they were trying to give it away. It was half price rosé. It was anything because vintage was so significant with rosé, and it still has some significance. But I think people have also learned now that rosé is a wine that can age a little bit. I'm not suggesting you age it for a long period of time, but a year or two old rosé is still going to be perfectly nice. But the fact of the matter is, back in the day, it was literally a 3-month period of time, and you had better get it out of your warehouse that quick because otherwise you were going to have to give it away because you were already thinking about the next year's vintage, and people simply did not drink rosé in the fall or the winter.
Yeah.
But it's definitely changed. I mean, you ladies are absolutely right that it's a year-round product now, and at DMV, we have several rosés that we sell year-round. And when I first opened DMV 4 years ago, it never occurred to me that would be the case. So it's really a neat transition.
Well, I think the year you and I started at DMV, I want to say that year was probably the first year where we saw the year-round rosé. Like, I know I sold rosé into the fall and winter, and of course, gearing back up for the spring as well. And so I think rosé is definitely something that's here to stay. And I think you're right. We find rosés throughout the year. And so they're always going to be hip for me. So I do have another question from Tracy Taylor Coach. She says, do you have classes you recommend to amateurs? All of us always need to learn.
Yeah, so WSET is actually really great for all levels. Level 1 is for complete beginners. There is no assumed knowledge, so you learn all the basics of wine. You don't have to know anything before you sit down in the classroom. And then level 2 is more for people who have that basic understanding of wine, but you want to delve a little bit deeper. So I recommend level 1 and 2 for complete beginners. Level 3, the information definitely starts to get more in depth. You have to do tasting portion of the exam, so blind tasting wine. So definitely a little bit more intense when you get into level 3, but level 1 and level 2 are great. And Capital Wine School is offering their courses online. So this is a good time to just level up your wine knowledge while you're at home.
Yeah, absolutely. So another question we have, Jean Hackney Kingsland. She said, I meant to ask earlier, what about aerating, specifically a bottle of rosé to let it get to the right temp? So
the purpose of aerating is to allow oxygen to get into the wine so that it either softens the tannins or makes the aromas more apparent. So you wouldn't necessarily aerate a wine to bring it up to temperature, but you could do it with a red wine that needs some oxygen. Say you have a big, bold red wine and you want to let it get some air so it's a bit smoother. But for rosé, I don't really recommend aerating it. If you just swirl it in your glass, that is perfect aeration enough. It's getting just the amount of oxygen that it needs. So no need to aerate. If you want to bring it up to temperature, just pull it out the fridge or pop it in the freezer for 30 minutes. Just set it out to bring it up to temperature.
All right. Well, now my glass is empty. So that means, and the questions, I don't see any new ones right now. So excuse me if I missed a question. I will go back and scroll through. But we're going to move on to the next wine, which is the Finca Manzanos Rioja, which is 100% Garnacha, and it's not typical for this region. Yeah. And we'll discuss that further in a minute. So go ahead and tell me what you think about this one. All right. Give everybody an opportunity to pour.
I just poured this one, and I saw Rioja on the bottle when I pulled it out, but I didn't realize that it was Garnacha. So I was a bit shocked because in Rioja, Tempranillo reigns supreme. So to have a Garnacha, they're probably picking some really good Garnacha grapes with this. So I'm going to smell. Oh, it smells so good. You get nice red fruit. You definitely get the oak. So you're getting a little bit of vanilla. That just a little. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and taste this one. So good. It has some tannin grip to it. So you get that astringency feeling, but it's not too much. This will be good with like cheese or something. Like I just need a slice of cheese. This one is really, really good. It looks like some other people are loving this one. It definitely smells just amazing.
Yeah. So let's see. So like you said, Tempranillo reigns supreme in the Rioja region in Spain. So it is very unusual to get a Garnacha as the only grape. Typically, it's Tempranillo is the huge percentage, and then just a little bit of Garnacha, as well as some other grapes that rounds out the wine and really balances it out. And so, you know, this one is absolutely wonderful. I love all the fruit that's present in this. It's just very easy drinking. I feel like this could even, because of all the fruit, it could almost use a little bit of chill. And the Garnacha grape, if you're not familiar, it's also the Grenache grape from France. So please keep that in mind. This is, you know, these grapes, the names vary from, you know, country to country. And so it's also known as the Grenache grape. And Finca Manzanos, again, is found throughout Maryland and Virginia. It's typically found for $11.99 or less. It was awarded 91 points from James Suckling. And it's a highly rated wine for an affordable price. It stands at 14.5% alcohol by volume. Very easy drinking wine. And like I said, what do you think about chilling this just ever so slightly because of the fruit?
Absolutely. So a lot of times with red wine, we drink it at room temperature, which is just a bit warm when you think about the temperature of your house. It's probably like maybe 74 degrees. And that's just a bit too warm to drink your red wine. You want it to be between like 60 to 65 degrees. So a little bit cooler, and that'll just help bring out some of those fruit flavors. You'll definitely notice a difference between drinking a wine that's been sitting out versus one that you put in the fridge for 15 minutes. But that would chill this just a little bit, not much.
So I have another question for you, Desiree. I'm wondering as it pertains to minorities, are you seeing any positive changes in the wine industry?
Oh, absolutely. As of lately, there have been so many new opportunities for minorities in the wine industry. A lot of organizations are realizing that we've been left out. So there have been so many scholarship opportunities, so many interviews and just conversations so that our voices are heard. And these are all positive things. My hope is that they are not temporary. They don't last just because it's the it thing to talk about right now. I really hope that the conversation continues and that we see more allies speaking up for minorities and keeping the conversation going beyond just this time period. But lots of things happening, and it's super exciting.
So we have a question from one of our watchers. They asked, is this the first time you're trying all these wines tonight, Desiree?
So it is my first time trying the Muscle Bay, and it's also my first time trying the Finca Manzanos. So when I worked at DMV, I sold the Confidential Rosé, and then I also sold the Tennelle Malbec. So those two I'm pretty familiar with, but the other two are brand new to me.
And then Gina asked, what kind of cheese would you suggest this wine be paired with?
For this one, I would do maybe like a goat cheese. I love goat cheese, so I'm kind of biased, but I think it would pair with really well. Manchego would be good. Yeah, when you think about Spanish wines, they say what grows together goes. Cheese doesn't grow, but it's, Manchego cheese from Spain paired with a Spanish wine.
Right.
But yeah, those are two really good options.
Yeah, we had Manchego mentioned and we had Gouda mentioned. And so I really like the goat cheese, especially like a herbed goat cheese. I feel would just pair so well with this.
So good.
I love herb goat cheese. So maybe I'm a little biased myself. Speaking of cheese, of cheese, it is time for another winner from the comments you posted here while we're discussing the wines. We have a great prize from our friends at FireFly Farms, a $50 gift card. So these are handcrafted select artisan cheeses. We'd like to thank FireFly Farms for their continued support of our virtual Vino. We do have some other questions as well while we're going ahead and choosing that winner. So Austin asks, which country is the grape from or most prominent? Is this grape from or most prominent in? The Garnacha.
So Garnacha grows in France quite a bit. You'll hear it referred to as Grenache. So if I'm not mistaken, Grenache, it's from France. So you can find a lot of French red wines made from Grenache. And then also rosé is often made from Grenache in southern France. So you can also find Garnacha-based rosés as well from Spain. So it's a versatile grape. It can grow in a lot of places, but you'll see it a lot in France and in some parts of Spain.
Awesome. And then Lucy again, she says, how do you know which wines are better based on the year, especially given the diverse geographic differences of wine available?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And sometimes
it really is.
It can be difficult to know because there's so many options, so many years. I'll give a few examples. For rosé wine, Alan mentioned it just a little bit, but you want to drink your rosés within a year or two. So when you go to the store, if you go to the store and you see like a 2015 rosé on the sale rack for $2, like don't get it, leave it there. Look for the more recent vintages when you're drinking rosé. So we're drinking 2019. You'll soon start to see some 2020 rosés, but 2020, 2019, 2018 are going to be really good for rosés. For light white wines like a Sauvignon Blanc, those wines are also usually meant to be consumed young and fresh. And that's, it's really true for a lot of the wines on the market. Most of the wines that are sold when you go to your local store are meant to be consumed within a few years of them being produced. For wines from Rioja, the great thing about Rioja is that they do a lot of the aging for you. So even though this wine is from, does this have a vintage on it? I thought it did. I think it's 2017. It's 2018. Yep. So
2018, yeah.
they do a bit of aging for you. Even though it's from 2018, it's still really good. They held it back a little bit so that when it's on the shelf, it's completely ready to drink. But red wines, you'll definitely see that the years are a little bit further back than your rosés and your white wines. So it can be a bit tricky to know. Rosés and white wines, you want to drink them young. Red wines can use a little bit of age because they have tannin, and tannin is what helps the wines age. So with tannin, it's that gripping, drying sensation. So not dry like no sugar, dry as in like sucking all the saliva out of your mouth.
Yeah.
But that is the quality of the wine that helps it age. And that's why you can drink it, 3, 4, 5 years after it's been released.
I don't see. All right.
So if we don't have any more questions, maybe we should move on to the Tonel 22 Malbec.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So last but not least on the wine from our list is their Tonel 22 Malbec. This is from Mendoza, Argentina. And let's get your thoughts on that one, Desiree.
Yeah. This one, I definitely get a little more like deeper fruit flavor. So think more like blackberry, some more darker, like almost like a plum. It's not as red as the Rioja, but smells amazing. Still really, really fruity. This one is good. This one's really, really good. On the palate, I get more blueberry too. So blueberry, blackberry, less of those red fruits, more of those blue and black, but really good. Not much oak presence and pretty light. So this is another good one you can drink in the summertime. Like it's not too bold. You can pair it with your burgers, your grilled foods. Grilled vegetables. I could drink a lot of this one.
Right. Yeah, definitely. I mean, even I could definitely see like the burger, the steak on the grill, all kinds of things. Yeah, absolutely. And people think that you don't drink reds during the summer, and you absolutely do. You should, because there's so many foods that complement these red wines.
Exactly. It goes so well with a lot of these foods. And what I like about both of these reds, the Rioja and the Malbec, is that it's not so much oak present. So when you smell it, it's not like those warm baking spices. They kind of make you think of like, winter and cozying up. It's a
cinnamon and nutmeg,
right,
and
a little bit, but it's more fruit, and that makes it so easy to just pair with summer foods, and just drink.
And again, that little bit of chill in those reds would definitely do, just a little bit, like you said. Pull it out 10 minutes or so before, or 15 minutes before you're going to drink it. So the Tonel, again, this is a Malbec you can find in stores throughout Maryland and DC. Typically, you can find this for $12.99 or less. It was awarded 90 points for the vintage that we're drinking from James Suckling. And this is 13% alcohol by volume. I had a couple comments about the Sauvignon Blanc, that seems to be some of the favorite tonight so far. Everybody is really liking the Sauvignon Blanc tonight.
That was really good.
Please make sure that y'all vote in our poll.
That's right. We have a poll.
Blanc if it's your favorite. Somebody else will win some chocolates.
That's right. So we'll have a poll at the end of this, so you can go ahead and vote, and then we'll pick another winner from the poll votes for another 5-pack of the Chouquette chocolates. So please make sure that you're voting at the end for your favorite wine tonight. I know Alan has another question for Desiree. This should be, I think this is the last question for him tonight.
All right.
I've got my prepared questions, Desiree. So, you broke our heart and left DMV for a position with Pinot Ricard winemakers in LA. And you did it right before the COVID outbreak. And I'm curious to know what it's been like working from home in Rockville when your job is based in Los Angeles.
It's been really interesting. My job has been completely remote. What has been the most, I wouldn't say difficult, but it's just taking adjusting, is just working on a different time zone. So they're 3 hours behind. So I've had to do events like virtual tasting events like these at 10 o'clock in Maryland because it was earlier in California. So I would say that has been the only thing. What's great is that it lets us do so much. So we've been getting really creative with doing social media things, partnering with different accounts to put on events for their customers for different stores in California. Doing a lot of training for distributors. It's kind of interesting to be on the other side, training people who were in my old role, but everything's just been virtual. So, you know, we're making it work. This is how things are going to be for a while. So might as well just get used to it, right?
It's a really good point, and getting used to it is I think what everyone's trying to do, and I think it's neat that you can still do it, you know, when your job's based in LA. I mean, the one thing we're all learning is that, you know, there is a virtual world out there, and you mentioned, you know, being on at 10 o'clock. We've had guests from winemakers from Europe. That it's the virtual Vino, I guess, starts here at, what is it, 7 o'clock? And, so in Europe, in most of Europe, it's 1 o'clock in the morning, and they've been kind enough to come on and they've done a great job. And I'm just very, very impressed that they would do that for us.
Yeah, Jeremy from the board.
Everybody to just be a little more flexible, and it makes you feel so much more connected. Like, what other time were we gonna connect with somebody in a completely different time zone? So I try to just look positives because there are so many negatives, but I think being more connected and having like a global mindset, it's only going to benefit us all.
So Gary had a comment about the Malbec. He said it's really great to learn more about what makes a great Malbec. Austin said that's a delicious Malbec to drink with barbecue. I can't agree more. Did you pick up any peppery notes? Lucy asked.
A little peppery, more like herby. Like you get a little bit of herbs. But yeah, I could definitely see some pepper.
Okay. Let's see. What would be great with a steak? So pick something from tonight's lineup and then maybe something from just in general.
So for a steak, I would do, out of all of these, I would probably pick the Rioja. And I say that because it had a little more tannin grip, in my opinion. And the tannin is what, the fattiness of a steak is going to be good with the tannin. It's kind of going to clear it, balance it out. So I would probably pick the Rioja. But you could also do like a full body cab. I know you all, are you still doing the California cab?
The Paris Valley Road,
Yeah. So that would be a good one.
Maybe in cab would work as well.
Yep.
And then Betty asked, should you aerate this Malbec?
Yeah, so aeration is to kind of loosen those tannins, to make it smoother, to get more of those fruit aromas. And I definitely think that both of these reds could do with a little bit of aeration.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about both these reds needing air. And honestly, I wish I'd opened mine a little. I opened them about 45 minutes before we came on, but probably should have opened them about an hour and 45 minutes before we came on.
Yeah.
And that's just the reality of wine. Is that certain wines are going to need more air if you want to get the ideal flavor profile.
Yeah, and what's cool is you can maybe have 2 glasses tonight. I mean, if you're drinking all 4, drink 2 glasses of the red and come back tomorrow and see how the flavors have changed and how the wine has opened up.
It's a great idea.
Yep. And then Lucy asks, do you anticipate that COVID will change the way you perform your job in the future?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think for all of us, we're going to be doing a lot more virtual things. Virtual Vino is going to be lasting for it's new, but it's also really cool that we get to do things like this. So I definitely think it's going to change the way we all work. Virtual is the new in person, unfortunately, but it's different.
It is. Yes, it is most certainly different. And so learning how to take cues from people when you're online, because the facial expressions don't always come across as clear as they would. At least you do get some facial expressions with online. Unlike through text and email, you don't always get the interpretation that you're looking for. So yeah, I do like the idea of Zoom and doing the video calls and things like that. I do feel like you get a better connection.
I do too.
But it is totally different from being in person though. And it's a new way to learn. And so some of us who are a little bit older, struggle a little bit, just a little bit.
You got it.
Let's see. And then it looks like Alan, we have a question for you. Could Alan talk a bit about how it is for his business in this time? For example, do online sales from local shops help move brands without tastings and online pickup only?
So that's a really good question. And I would say that, business-wise, our business hasn't changed that dramatically. Obviously, we were considered essential when there was a shutdown, so we continued to do business, and the liquor stores continued to be open. Having said that, the restaurants were closed, and even now, the restaurants are only partially open. So obviously, there was a dramatic negative effect on our restaurant business. But at the same time, to be totally honest, the liquor store business went up dramatically. So it kind of equaled out.
Right.
I would say that obviously, we don't taste many stores on our products like we used to. So a lot of times they're buying products blind based on, our reputation or the winery's reputation and such. And in the question, she mentioned online sales, and a lot of the stores we sell to, especially in DC, that are able to ship out of state. I would say there's a dramatic increase in shipping, and obviously stores, whether they're in DC or Maryland, are now able to deliver, and there's a whole lot more delivery business going on, and curbside as well. But now most stores, I don't think all stores, but most stores have opened up for the most part. In DC, it's been a slower transition. And one of the things we'll learn next week is why it's been a slower transition in DC, and part of it has to do with there was a lot of damage done to liquor stores with the rioting, and a lot of our accounts had broken windows and such, and just said, well, you know what, we'll deliver and we'll do curbside, but really we're not going to open up to the public, and that went on for a period of time. But again, it's starting to open up more now. But it's definitely been different. I think it's been different for everyone involved. I know our sales reps, like Desiree was talking about earlier, you're doing a lot of business like this, or texting, emailing, phone calls, virtual conversations, what have you. And that's how a lot of our business has been done. And I think doing virtual Vino has been a huge help to us, because it's a way for us to promote our products and help the stores to sell our products. So, these are the type of things you have to do when the world changes, is you have to adjust. And I think this is a perfect example of an adjustment that we're making to help our business.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yep. And then, so I have another question. Are winemakers making smaller bottles for tastings and takeout to match restaurant tastings? So this is something that I've noticed. We have one of our winemakers that are bottling in the 187s. And so they're a perfect combination if you're getting takeout for dinner and you throw a bottle of that with your takeout, and there you go. Now you've got a bottle of wine, but it's only one glass. So are you seeing that anywhere, Desiree? Are you noticing any trends due to COVID like that?
You know, I haven't seen a lot of that, but it takes time for wineries to adjust, and I definitely think that is going to be the new trend. It's to bottle smaller, whether it's 87 or the splits, the half bottles. But I definitely think we're going to start to see sales of those increase a little bit more as restaurants are able to sell wine. It'll be beneficial for them to be able to sell half bottles to pair with your dinner. But I haven't seen too much of it yet, but definitely think we're trending in that direction.
You know, one of the things I love about the smaller bottles when it comes to restaurants especially is, you know, when you're buying wine by the glass in a restaurant, you really don't know how long that bottle has been opened or how that bottle has been stored. And anybody that's ever worked in a bar, which is probably all three of us, knows that the red wines that are sitting behind the bar, more often than not, right next to a compressor, are getting cooked.
Yeah.
And so the idea of having the smaller bottles, I like it for two reasons. One, you know you're going to get a fresh wine and a quality wine. And the other thing I really like about it is that, you know, if you, instead of buying a bottle of wine for your meal, you know, you might be having an appetizer, a salad, an entree, and it's hard to find one wine that's going to go with all three. Mm-hmm. So if you have these smaller options, and then you can get, you know, like a couple of weeks ago when we were showing the Tussock Jumper miniatures and the Massatina miniature. And when we say 187, folks, it's a quarter bottle. What's that?
Yeah, 187 miniatures from Massatina.
Yeah, it's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
I love
that. So I just think that the 187s are the next trend we're going to see, and I think Desiree is right. It's what we're going to see more and more in restaurants, especially, but also, you know, when you're going to the store and you know, it's the same thing. A lot of times you're buying wine to go with a meal, and you might be having, you know, a couple of different things in your meal that you want to have wines to pair with. And if that's the case, it's a whole lot easier to buy the smaller bottles, and you don't have the waste. And then of course the other thing is the bottles we were showing, not the Massatina, Desiree, but the Tussock Jumpers are plastic.
Oh yeah.
So they come with this little plastic cup as well. So they're really, really cool. And I think, you know, they're much better for taking to the beach or to the pool or
just outside. So many people are doing just picnics outside since you can't, you know, go to restaurants and stuff. The cup is perfect.
And the other thing too is a lot of people now are socializing, but they're socially distant socializing. Mm-hmm. So you're not gonna, you might have your neighbors over in the yard or something, but you're staying apart and you're obviously not touching. So you're really not going to be passing a bottle around. So if you've got the smaller bottles, it's a win-win for everybody. And I feel bad. We kind of totally got off the wines that we were supposed to be talking about tonight. But when Desiree was talking about trends, I think she's spot on that's one of the trends we're going to see in our business. And I'm really glad that we've got a couple of wines that already have maybe ahead of the curve a little bit when it comes to being prepared. You know, having these 187s is really neat. And I think that a year from now, everyone's going to have 187s, and that's going to be the next big thing probably for the reasons we discussed.
Agreed.
Let's see. So let's see. Lucy said, more people. I feel that more people will have an opportunity to participate in things like this, virtual wine tastings and such. And I'm right about the facial cues. Yeah. Sorry, I meant more people have an opportunity to participate in the virtual world. Yes. Well, I mean, I know you're big in social media, you know, with your blog and of course on Instagram and all of the social media platforms, and raising consciousness and awareness and creating a following for just the love of wine. And so I appreciate that all the time that you invest into, you know, pushing things a little bit further and enhancing everybody's lives just by interacting with them on a daily basis. So I just want to say thank you for that, and being such a big person in the world to help us lead us along.
Thank you.
Let's see. So
Marty asked a question about
you know I love you.
And
Yep.
and that's a really good question, Marty. And thanks for watching. Marty's up in New York State.
Yep.
So we don't
Go
sell
ahead.
canned wines at DMV. And, you know,
Mhm.
typically in the normal circumstances, I could still answer the question because I'd have spent a lot of time with accounts and know what's selling, what's not selling. But honestly, when we visit accounts these days, we are trying to get in and out as quickly as possible. We're not as social as we used to be.
Yeah.
It just, you know, people just don't want to have extended conversations. They'd rather get out in the fresh air. I don't know that, Desiree, I don't know your products that well, so I don't know if you guys sell any canned wines, if that's a question that you might be better off answering than I would be.
No, we don't sell any canned wines. I mean, if we're talking about trends, I know that canned wines have been super trendy even before coronavirus. I mean, again, with like the smaller bottles and the portableness of wine, I can imagine that they're probably selling a lot. But then again, I mean, sales for $750 are through the roof. So I think people want all the wine they can get right now.
Right.
It's a really good point. I mean, retail sales are absolutely through the roof. Obviously, the restaurants are the opposite, unfortunately, but it is interesting. And I know that there's been a lot of, you know, I can remember recently being in a store, and the store was expecting, I can't remember the exact number, say it was 500 cases of wine delivered, and they got 300. And it was just because the distributor was not us, but it could very well have been us. The fact of the matter is certain products are selling so much faster than expected. And a lot of the larger distributors, they base their orders on previous year sales. And that's a totally different circumstance. Now, you know, when as a business person, when you're thinking about what's going to happen next week, next month, 3 months down the road, and trying to plan your ordering so that you're prepared, you have nothing to compare to anymore. We have no idea what's going on, and you know, all the distributors are doing their best, but the last year's numbers are absolutely meaningless in the business right now.
Yeah, that's so
completely unprecedented. So you just don't know, you know, they had no clue that any of this was coming, and everyone was blindsided. So I didn't see any other questions, but I do have a lot of thank yous. We had a lot of first-time people joining in tonight, and I appreciate all the comments that everyone has left and all the questions. Betty says, love to try new wines and have a discussion tasting to go with it. Yes, well, that's why we're here, and this is what we do every Friday night at 7 o'clock. We try to get wonderful guests on, like Desiree. And so that way we can discuss the wines that are available to you in your local area here in Maryland and DC. And Austin said, I wouldn't say it's just canned wines that are thriving, but anything that is convenient, such as canned cocktails, wine cocktails, and alcoholic mixed drinks are selling off the shelf too. Yeah, that is definitely a trend that we're seeing too, Austin. Yeah. So, and I'm sure Alan can concur on that one, you know, even though we distribute just wine. So I know Alan had some closing remarks, and we're calling last call for any questions. So please, if you have anything that wasn't answered, retype it in. Sorry if you got lost in the shuffle, but we definitely want to answer all your questions, and we appreciate your continued support all night, as we've gone on. And so if you have any other questions, comments, please post them now. We'll be happy to go through them as we're going through some of the closing. So it's last call for comments.
I think we should do this every week is sometime around, 8 o'clock is announced last call, and we'll take whatever questions remain.
That makes you feel like you're in a real bar.
Exactly.
Right. Finish them up, toss them back, people.
Yep. Last call. So, anyway, I don't see any more questions. So I really want to thank Monica and Desiree for joining me this evening. And obviously I enjoyed the wines a lot, but I really enjoyed the conversation. I thought it was fascinating. And Desiree is truly in a unique position in the wine industry, and hearing her perspectives is illuminating. I highly recommend following Desiree on social media. I hope everyone has already done that, but if you haven't, please follow Desiree. She's got a great blog, and I cannot thank you enough for joining us, Desiree.
Thanks so much for having me. It's so good to chat. It feels just like old times. So thanks for having me. I'm happy to come back anytime.
Well, we're definitely going to invite you back. Thank you so much.
Right. I hope you stick around for the after party in the green room so we can have a little bit more fun and catch up.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
So next Friday at 7 p.m., we'll be on again, and our guest is going to be Rick Bellman, who is the owner of Paul's of Chevy Chase. And Rick and his brother have owned Paul's for, over 20 years now, I'd say. And before they owned Paul's, their father owned it. So Rick's going to be tasting with us, and he's also going to be able to provide a really interesting history of the wine business in DC. And I think it's going to be fascinating. We're going to be tasting 4 more wines, and hopefully they're all available at your local wine shop. Obviously, if they're not, please request them. The Hero Graham Zinfandel, which I mentioned earlier, got a great write-up in the Washington Post a couple of weeks ago. It also received 90 points from Wine Enthusiast magazine. The Verkelon White Bordeaux, Masta St. Croix Red Côte de Rhône, which received 90 points from Wine Advocate, and the Fontella Chianti, which received 91 points from James Suckling. So hopefully y'all can join us next week.
And that poll that I mentioned earlier, so don't forget the poll that we have on our Facebook page for your favorite selection from tonight's wines. We will randomly select one winner from those who participate in the poll, and they will receive a 5-pack of Chouquette Chocolates. Thanks again to Chouquette Chocolates and FireFly Farms for the wonderful prizes and their continued support.
All right. I want to thank Monica for co-hosting this week, and it's really been a lot of fun working with you, Monica, and we were lucky to have Desiree. I mean, Desiree is just an incredible guest, and I hope we get an opportunity to work again together soon. That was really fun. Thanks, everyone, for watching.
Thank you.